Picture this. It's April 2026. A luxury cruise ship sets sail from South America, heading down toward the icy, remote islands of the South Atlantic. For the passengers on board, this was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. But instead, they found themselves completely trapped in a floating nightmare, being hunted by an invisible, deadly killer. What's genuinely terrifying here is how incredibly fast the whole situation escalated. The ship leaves Ushuaia on April 1st. Just a few days into the trip, a 70-year-old Dutch passenger starts feeling off, just a mild fever and a headache. Nothing you'd normally panic over. But then his condition absolutely plummets, and by April 11th, he's dead. The crew literally had no idea what they were dealing with. By the time the World Health Organization finally got alerted on May 2nd, this invisible threat was already spiraling wildly out of control. And the horror didn't just stay contained on that ship. The very first victim's wife got off the boat absolutely desperate for answers, only to collapse and die right there on the floor of a South African airport just a few weeks later. Panic ignited everywhere. As more previously healthy passengers started falling gravely ill, global health officials were gripped by one chilling question. Why were healthy people suddenly dropping dead? To solve this modern mystery, we're going to explore Section 1, the two faces of the virus. Okay, so here is the terrifying reality of this pathogen. Scientists have actually known about the Hantavirus family for over 70 years, yet it's completely untamed. We have 0 vaccines, 0 approved antiviral treatments. The biological mechanism of this virus is just so incredibly aggressive that it completely overwhelms your cellular defenses way before any drugs can actually intervene. So if you get infected, modern medicine can really only offer supportive care, basically giving you oxygen and fluids, while your own immune system fights a brutal, unaided battle for survival. Now, what makes this virus so unique is that it has 2 distinct, horrific faces, and it all depends on the local rodents that carry it. If you're in Asia or Europe, it typically manifests as HFRS. This version aggressively attacks your kidneys, plunging the body into failure and causing severe internal bleeding. But over in the Americas, it triggers HPS, Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. This variant directly hijacks your lung function. Your capillaries start leaking, which rapidly fills your lungs with fluid, essentially suffocating the victim from the inside out. 50%. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the potential mortality rate for patients who get infected with that lung-targeting HPS variant. It's literally a coin toss for your life. And this devastating physiological impact is exactly why a single outbreak on a crowded cruise ship triggered immediate worldwide panic. Let's step back in time to Section 2. Clues from the Navajo. Back in May of 1993, medical investigators were facing a completely baffling nightmare. 10 entirely healthy young Navajo individuals died suddenly with a staggering 75% initial mortality rate. Now, unlike an isolated luxury cruise ship, this was happening spread out across the vast, arid American Southwest. But here's the crazy part. The clinical presentation was completely identical to our 2026 ghost ship. Victims were suddenly drowning in their own lung fluid. The missing link tying it all together, though, was still hidden. I absolutely love this, because the major breakthrough didn't come from some high-tech lab. It came from ancient oral history. Navajo tribal elders shared a crucial observation with researchers. They said, when heavy rains come, the pine nuts bloom, mice multiply, and sickness follows. That one single sentence was a massive clue. It pointed researchers directly to the rodent connection they'd been so desperately searching for. It perfectly described a terrifying ecological butterfly effect. Look at the sequence. Step 1. El Niño weather patterns roll in, bringing unseasonable, heavy rains. Step 2. Those rains trigger an absolute bumper crop of local pine nuts. Step 3. With all that extra food, local mouse populations explode. They're just feasting on the abundance. And finally, Step 4. Outbreak. As humans start interacting with this booming, infected mouse population, the virus strikes. It's literally the perfect environmental storm. And this invisible predator isn't just an American problem. It has a massive global footprint. It silently infected over 3,000 soldiers way back during the 1950s Korean War. It struck the Navajo Nation in '93, as we just saw, and between 2005 and 2008, it totally devastated warehouse workers and rat catchers in India. Basically, wherever humans and rodents are forced to share close quarters, this virus is just waiting. Which brings us to the game changer in Section 3, the Andes strain mutation. So, for decades, the scientific community confidently believed that humans could only catch hantavirus directly from a rodent. You couldn't catch it from your neighbor. But then, a 1996 outbreak in Argentina completely shattered that assumption. Medical researchers realized the virus had actually mutated. This new version, known as the Andes strain, possessed a dangerous new ability. It could use humans as a bridge. It was leaping from person to person, totally bypassing the mouse. As you can see, this mutation takes the threat level from high to absolutely extreme. With a standard hantavirus, traditional cruise ship quarantine protocols would work fine, because transmission is strictly mouse to human. But on our 2026 Ghost ship, those standard protocols failed completely. Because they were unknowingly harboring the mutated Andes strain, the tight corridors and close quarters of that ship became the ultimate breeding ground for human-to-human spread. So the puzzle pieces of the ghost ship mystery finally snapped together. That fateful Dutch couple we talked about earlier, they had simply gone on a bird-watching tour in Ushuaia, right near a rat-infested landfill. They caught it there, boarded the ship immediately after, and brought the Andes strain right on board with them. Through prolonged physical contact in those tiny cabins and crowded dining halls, the infection spread, resulting in 10 cases and 3 tragic deaths. So now we have to ask in Section 4, is a pandemic coming? With a 50% death rate and the newfound ability to spread from human to human, the entire world was bracing for the worst. International organizations had to immediately step in, coordinating these incredibly complex emergency medical evacuations to hospitals across South Africa, the Netherlands, and Switzerland just to contain the fallout. Amidst all that chaos, the one question on everyone's mind was, are we looking at the next global pandemic? Well, despite the super terrifying headlines, the World Health Organization officially categorizes the global risk as low. And here's exactly why. Unlike COVID-19 or the flu, this virus is not easily airborne. You're not going to catch it just by breathing the air in the same room as someone. It requires incredibly close, sustained physical contact. We're talking sharing bodily fluids or sharing a bed. Plus, 0 human-to-human cases have ever been recorded outside of the Americas. But the ultimate saving grace here is its transmission window. Get this, the virus is highly contagious for only 1 day, right at the very onset of the illness. This incredibly tiny window makes a massive global spread highly unlikely. Think about it. If that Dutch couple had boarded the ship just 48 hours later, the entire tragedy probably never would have happened. And this also means those sprawling 14-day international quarantines, they simply aren't necessary for this virus. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, How to Protect Yourself. Even though a full-blown pandemic is unlikely, an individual outbreak is still lethal. And with new El Niño weather patterns on the horizon threatening to explode rodent populations again, you need to know how to protect yourself. Your very first line of defense is securing your home. Step 1, rigidly seal all structural gaps and entry points. Step 2, never ever leave food exposed on counters. Step 3, lock down your trash disposal. Basic hygiene is literally your best armor against turning your house into an all-you-can-eat rodent buffet. But the real danger? That lies in the dark. What if you're entering a dusty storage room, an abandoned warehouse, or maybe an old garage that's been closed up for months? If you're stepping into a space where mice might have been living quietly undisturbed in the shadows, you are stepping into a high-risk zone. Because we don't have a vaccine, you have to execute a high-risk protocol in those situations. Always, without exception, wear a high-grade N95 mask. The absolute greatest threat comes from inhaling viral particles that get kicked up into the air from dried rodent droppings in the dust. Wear heavy protective gloves. Stay hypervigilant. I'm not exaggerating when I say a simple N95 mask is quite literally the barrier between you and a coin toss for your life. The Hantavirus is a silent, ancient predator that's been out there for decades. But now that you actually understand its biological mechanisms, its mutations, and how it spreads, you hold the power to break the chain of infection. The invisible killer is definitely out there. So the real question is, are you ready to protect yourself the next time you open a door into the dark?